Okay, this isn't a usual video. Usually, I don't do a video after what I just experienced. So how do I unfold this? I just had a major sneezing event. That's why I'm doing this, is to get it, as we say, off out of my system. And it has to do with what's known as the Aquiferion Shield, and I carry the Aquiferion Shield. You can tell when you close your eyes, and I'm doing work with the sun. If you've ever seen some of the charts that Patty Broussard, Karen McDonald put up, when you go Cosmic Avatar, you'll see that really deep purple and then an Aquiferion color. Okay, well, see, when I close my eyes, particularly when I'm outside, I can see that. You know, it's sort of an egg shape like this. And so last night, I listened to, by the way, the video that popped up this morning that I'm supposed to see, okay, for the reason that I just experienced what I did when I sneezed, which is by the Voyagers material, which is called Crystal River Host, Ancha Passage, Safe Passage, Failsafe. Failsafe is the Aquiferion Shield. That Indigos and Aquiferion, which is, she explains it, okay, in that short little video when she talked about the ability for this planet because it was damaged so badly, right? And I'm not going to go through all the other information I've already gone through. It's called a Bardo point. And simply stated, that means your ability to recover the shadow body anatomy, which, see, I'm an oversoul polarity integrator. Okay, so that's your ability to recover what you remember that you once were, that you started with when you came into creation. Okay, which is recovering all your fragments that have been lost as a result of wars. Okay, obviously. And when you look at the whole universal and galactic history of that, is how long it's going to take you to be able to do that, and more importantly, learning how to do that. Particularly when you realize how many technologies that are out there that I've covered many times of what I've experienced because of what I've become aware of, and stuff that I've shared about gyrodome technology that exists that are in the future that most people, I just have no idea what's available. One. And how that relates to clearances, and the fact that you even know that, and the fact that you even know that has everything to do with what I've already described about how much fire you run and how much energy you've been able to reclaim. That's why restoration is reclamation, reclaiming what was once yours as a result of what was broken off, as a result of what others do to others. Remember, what I do to you, I do to me. So my job is to keep everything as whole as I possibly can when you realize the rate at which fractures are taking place. Otherwise, what happens? You go in from a planetary black hole to a solar system black hole to a galactic black hole to a universal black hole. Right? As a result of all the history of all the wars. It's not a pretty picture, okay? I deviate a little bit from Patty Broussard and all the information she puts out. Not that I disagree with it, because I don't play that. That's a game. I do not play ping pong or compete over information based on experiences, because experience is informer of what we're experiencing simultaneously. Right? So it has to do with the level that you operate at the time that you're operating, what you're operating as software, if you will, what your consciousness becomes aware of, and why you're experiencing what you're experiencing at the time you're experiencing it simultaneoly with every unit of energy that is conscious is experiencing stuff that we can communicate with. Right? So we're obviously a cosmic communication platform. So I would suggest, and this is the reason I'm doing this, is because this is not a very long video, but for those that this information resonates with will know this. And that has everything to do with the codes. Remember, the frequencies that you're able to accrete and hold and your ability to recover what it is that's been lost as a result of those that do the things that they do against others. Races they don't like, races they want to get rid of, all the forced hybridization stuff, all the breeding experiments, and then everything I've covered about technology development, the acceleration of technology, a unit of consciousness. Realize, hey, I just thought of a wagon wheel, I just built one. How long does it take to go from thinking about a wagon wheel to building a wagon? Now you go from building a wagon to a starship. How long would it take to go from that to the other? When you have units of consciousness that are now aware of what you're aware of, now we can build it. How fast will that take? Now you can see the acceleration of units of consciousness that now form a formation of consciousness, and now they can build technology systems of transportation consciousness transportation systems. And you see that, man, it's not going to take long at all to be able to get out into other places. So that's why I've always said you have the inception of consciousness, or the inception of light, the first spark, the first star, right? The crystal spiral, right? And then you have everything that comes after the first, but it never ends. So which is the first? Well, love is what it began out of, what love is. So when you're experiencing what love is, then you know that's what it began with. And that's as simple as it gets. So you're recovering the light that's been lost, the fractures, the fractals. A fraction, you've lost a fraction of yourself, because it's just like a pie, right? A sphere. I've lost a part of what I was once aware of I was giving love to, which is what I am. So if I've lost a part of what I am, I got to restore what I am. Now this becomes a little bit, I'm not going to say odd, but you can imagine how that is when you're an oversoul polarity integrator. You don't want to lose a part of yourself of what you were once giving love to, because it went dark as a result of what it did to itself. Oh, I don't have any control over what you do, because you have the freedom to choose what you want to do. Now we're into responsibility. And where does my responsibility start as a parent? I just gave birth to a star into the universe. And now that star, which is aware of itself because it's generating energy, right, as a star. And then I realized that something happened to that star because of other seeded races that have been seeded in that star system. Right, or galaxy, as these galaxies come to be, and all these seeded races come to be, and now they're all aware of who they all are together, communicating with each other. And what are the frequencies and what are the codes that they're all using to communicate with each other? How are they getting along? And how that is measured between density, which is the atomic speed, right? Hey, things are moving really slow down here. Well, they move a lot faster up there. But everything is happening simultaneously, right? Because atoms cycle like clocks, right? Clock cycles. So they're synchronized. There is an intelligence in place that is synchronized in all the atoms that are happening, which represents all the units of consciousness that are all cycling. Just like a recycling center, right? The planet is one big recycling center, a wastewater treatment system, right? Garbage in, garbage out. That's what I used to call it, because that's what it is. Garbage represented by the information that's being presented. Okay, well, that's garbage. That doesn't have anything to do with me, because if it doesn't represent what love is, then it doesn't represent what I am. So now what you're doing is what are you doing? You're managing a radio set. Now I become aware of what you're aware of, but what you're aware of that you're communicating to me isn't what love is. Because you're experiencing in the other soul what they're experiencing when they're communicating through their DNA, those frequencies and the codes that are represented by the codes that are held within that operating system that operator is operating. And that's a map read of another identity. That's how it works. So what just happened is that I felt within my own soul, her soul. Now, what's really beautiful about this is if you go back and you look at when she did that, I think she did that in 2007. I went back to 2007 when she was at exactly where she was at when that video was being done. I could feel her soul at the moment she was communicating, when she was communicating with me in this room on this big island on this day. You see how that works? Because I know how beautiful her soul is. That's what I was experiencing. And that's why I went into a sneezing event. She's right on. You know, what I try and tell folks is when you're going to listen, your receiver's open. Somebody's communicating to you. You can translate the language, right? Mathematically and geometrically. What is the soul experiencing? What this being is communicating to me? Does it resonate or does it not resonate, right? Because you realize the cosmos is really vast. You can meet folks that you've known here in your life and never see them again after you die because you are way somewhere else. Whoa. I used to call that a flighting memory. Most of the folks I've remembered that ever made any kind of a significant soul impact on me in my entire life, I don't remember them anymore. I can't remember their name because the amount of information that you're processing at the oversoul level is just so vast. So I don't, that's like counting sheep. Those numbers are just way too big because my job is a transmutation job. Basically like holding the fort down because we represent a large formation of Kristic races that have engaged in this between the Aquiferion matrix, 3 that came together to pull this off. So I have a little bit of a different lens because of everything that I've shared with you about the Kauai, right, an interdimensional learning center. So I simply have a different avenue that I share information of what I become aware of because of the pertinence and the relevance at the time in which I share it with all of you because I become aware of it and I'm supposed to do that. So I put it to the morphogenetic field structure, right? So I have, if you will, a different, I don't devalue somebody else's information because it's just information, that's all it is. I do not partake in this, what's true, what's not true, what you believe, what I believe, what you believe is going to happen, what isn't going to happen, because it's your journey. It's not my journey. Your journey, you are on your own, right? And then that's where you do all the inner work with who you are and the relationship that you have with the soul source creator from which it all began. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You came into creation as the result of a creator that brought, right? And so that's the relationship that I have. So that's why after I listened to the video that Patty Broussard and Alfred Lamont Weber had yesterday talking about the AI, and Patty said she'd gone up the timelines and we've already won this, and that's true. I've known that for many, many years. I actually knew that when I was a child, before she was ever born. Okay, but so it's a matter of what you know, when you know it, why you know it, when you don't, as a result of security protocols. Because when you become aware of it here, they become aware of it. Because of the way that the biometric identity, the scanning works with consciousness and the frequencies that you're running, which means they're mapping you the same way that we map. And now you're into the quantum probability function, and that's the Bardo point. Okay? And so she mentioned how the core of this planet had been damaged so badly that its ability, when Patty talks about graduation, I have a different view on that from a teacher's point of view. Okay? And I've used the analogy of this. Okay? Would you send your student, your daughter, remember I've covered this before, into a classroom that's being held hostage? Okay? Now she knows this. It's beyond the idea of what tampering is all about, with energy binding device and all this. I would never send my child into this planet to go to school. Okay? Because it starts with what love is. So I would not send my child into a school unless they're going to experience what I am, which is what love is. So therefore, I represent the first school. So if my children are experiencing what I am, they gave birth to them into creation, which is their souls, then they're experiencing what I am, which is what love is, goes on forever. If they're not, then they're not experiencing being loved. That's against the law. That's a standard that I operate at, no matter where you come from. Okay? Love is the law. That's right. So I'm always with a one. That's what it means to set yourself on fire. It means you're not holding one electron captive, which means you're running at the highest accelerated rate of speed at which things are happening simultaneously. Okay, so when you realize that you have all these different souls, right, that come from all these different soul families and soul groups as a result of putting all this information together in some sort of contact in which we could sort of, what I've done since I was a child is called filtering content, which is filtering communication, which is filtering the math and the language of codes and frequencies based on the DNA that's being run by the operator of that software and why they're here. Right? Because you had a lot of different contracts, a lot of different mission contracts. I'm not one of those that needs a contract. I'm a forever being. Okay? So I work on behalf of the one, which is like wherever I need to go, wherever I need to be, because anywhere that I'm at that I'm experiencing something less than what I am, then I'm automatically going to restore it. So when it comes to reclamation and restoration, it works a little different for me from an oversoul polarity integrator's point of view. You would want everyone to experience being whole the way that I experience being whole, which means there isn't any separation from what you are and what I am that I'm giving love to. So if I'm not experiencing love in you, I'm not experiencing love in me, because I'm experiencing love that you're not experiencing that I am. And that's how it works at the oversoul level of being a polarity integrator. Because you're not supposed to experience any trauma. Trauma is a virus in any computer system. Okay? That means something went wrong with the line of communication. There is something wrong with that motherboard. Okay? Something's feeding on that energy. That energy should be able to run through that motherboard just as fast as that motherboard was designed. Okay? So something's wrong with the motherboard. Now you're into the lower dimensions, lower densities, right? And wars between seeded races, right? Now you get into the evolution of consciousness, how fast we're learning. Oh, we don't want them learning that fast. Now you get into competition, right? Because then they realize, man, they're accelerating at a higher rate of speed. Look at the technology they're developing, right? Now we're in the inception of technology transfer, and now we end up with all kinds of problems that we got to fix. Now those are engineering problems. Those are engineering genetic problems. Right? What's your frequency? What's your communication? So at the end of the day, it's all about antennas. Right? So now we end up with antenna wars, because that's what DNA is an antenna. A fractal antenna, right? So we can have a fractal virus that's a lower beam. They don't have a one connection, the line of communication, the connection between the first crystal spiral. Right? So you see what happened when they built the B system, right? The other spiral. And so this was the final dance. That's why this was the final dance. Because it was already known that if there wasn't major intervention, okay, what was going to happen. And she explained that. So I don't need to, mimic what she had brought out. And so this is a public way that I do this. But I would recommend for those that are interested to watch that particular video, because it's not very long. But it's another little snippet of how failsafe works, what an Aquiferion shield is, the Indigo shield, why the Indigos, why that DNA was generated, which is the ability to accrete and hold what I call a higher ground. It's as if you're going into a fallen system. This is a broken motherboard. It is a fallen spiritual system. When you put the entire history into the context of what's happened as a result of the fall of Terra and all the rest of it, that's a lot of data. Right? And then you say, well, how do I know that data is true? Right? Mapping and reading it. Like when I listen to her, I'm experiencing her soul to soul, as I just described. I'm experiencing her soul. Now I know who the operator is. Okay? So I know what she talks about because I have experience, direct experience with the data. If it wasn't true, I would know it's not true. Because you're supposed to know what's true or not true because of the relationship that our soul has with our Creator. So if it was not true, my Creator would let me know. The One would let me know. That's right. Because that's the permanent records. That's like everything being recorded simultaneously, magnetically, right? Hey, delete that, uninstall that. I don't want to experience that. Your ability to be able to do then find something else to love. To keep giving love to like you're experiencing being what love is. And that's the easiest way I know how to do that. There's always love in you. Being what love is, being a beloved. That's right. We're beloveds. And that is the gift when you've chosen to serve forever and light yourself on fire so you're not ever holding one electron captive. You're not an inverter. The very idea you're going to slow yourself down by holding on to any energy, let it go. We do not put leashes, collars, or cages on holding any energy captive. That's a major no-no. That's not what love is. Love is the highest speed accelerator. That's the EFFI field. And that's as simple as anybody can explain it, right? So I cut right to the chase because that's what it is, the acceleration of electrons, right? The EFFI field, light and sound, being whole, right? Experiencing being whole, the one, right? And that's when they covered the monad stuff. Being a monad, the monadic wars, that's a lot of power. When you're experiencing being the one as a monad, right? Okay, so you realize how much energy that you have at your disposal that is represented by your consciousness when you're operating at the monad level, right? Because that allows you to hold the poles in balance in a planet ship. That's a lot of energy at your disposal. And the beauty about that is that you have a relationship with all the other monads. Or the first atom cell. Okay. So we honor the first one, the first monad, the first cell, the first atom cell, the crystal spiral. So I'm always with the crystal spiral. So I was supposed to view that this morning after I watched part of that video that was put up the other day that Karen gave me a link to go watch Patty Broussard now for Lambert Weather on that. And I listened to part of the information, and then as soon as I woke up this morning, bang, sitting right in front of me was that video by Oshaya. Because I'm realizing what it is I'm processing by the data that Patty was putting out. And so then I go back to Oshaya, and I have to remind myself, okay, and then I saw the Aquiferion Shield, and then I realized that's right, the way she described how the Aquiferion Shield works. So if you have a chance to take a look at that video, I would suggest doing that. But naturally, it's up to you what you do with your energy, right? I don't hold energy captive. I'm just another messenger, right? And and that's the beauty of it. I'm go green. Hey, you got a green light. I'm not holding you captive. You're free. You're free. You're always free. I am what love is. That's what being free is. That's a free spirit. That means you're not holding energy captive, and you're not allowing anyone to hold your energy captive because you are what love is. That's the beauty. That's the genius of it. That's the genius of that frequency. There's got to be a higher intelligence, creative engine that's at work here, right? So I use basic common sense as a little kid. I'm on fire. The language of fire, which is the language of fire codes. Need some coolant, right? Water and oil, viscosity, right? Anyway, have a good day. What a beautiful morning. Well, I got to clear my sinuses after that. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves, beloveds.